Okay, now before going ahead with the next topic, I want to set up a simple project where I will be saving employee details into the database. Okay, a simple project, so that we will be using all the things which I have learned till now, like auto wiring, everything whatever we have learned will apply in that, and also it will be helpful for our next topic. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to write a class called employee DAO using JDBC. Same whatever I told in the first application, first example, employee service and employee UI. In employee UI dummy, I don't have any UI. I will create an employee object, set all the values, then call the service dummy. That's it, right? Using this example, we will see how to use auto wiring features and all, and how to externalize the configuration also. The next topic, very good example. I'm creating a new application, Spring application, a Java application only right now. 04 Spring demo. You can also do parallel with me. Creating a new package, com.sapient.model or domain class I can write. Here I'll create employee class. To make it very simple, I'll have only few fields: private, string name, private string designation, private string project name. That's it. Getters and setters. So I created a simple employee class. Then I'll create the DAO first. Another package, com.sapient.DAO. I'll create a class called employee DAO using JDBC. In this case, I am not making an interface to make it very simple. I'll write a method public void insert employee. This will take employee as parameter. And now here inside employee, I want to write the JDBC code. To write the JDBC code, first thing what I want is connection. Generally in our applications we will be getting connection from a data source, right? The data source can be either in a JNDA or we'll configure it. So my employee DAO is dependent on data source. Private data source from Java x.sql data source. If I get the data source, then I'll say data source dot get connection. It will be returning me the connection. This is throwing some exception. I'll just throw it. Okay. I will write the rest of the code after some time, but now I wanted to give you about the data source. I want the data source object to be injected inside my JDBC. One way is to look up inside the JND, but if I am having application server, I look up inside the JND. Right now it is a standalone application which is not running inside application server. So I have to configure the data source, right? So you might be knowing the common implementation of data source from Apache DBCP, right? So we will use Apache DBCP data source to create it here. Now I will try to configure the data source inside my XML. I guess yeah, this is the data source implementation. Data source is an interface, and this is the implementation given by Apache, right? I want to declare the object of this basic data source as a bean inside my XML. Let us see how to declare it. I'll create a XML file, new bean configuration file. I'll name it as beans.xml. Here I'll configure a bean. ID is equals to data source. Class is equals to basic data source. And this data source is having a lot of dependencies. So I'll inject property name, driver class name. If you are using MySQL, driver class name will be com dot I think I don't have the driver. One minute, I'll just share you the driver. Okay, now I'll include that jar inside my build path. Yeah, I simply add that MySQL connector jar inside my build path. Now I'll set driver com.mysql.jdbc.driver. So for basic data source, driver class name is a dependency. I injected it. Then URL value is equals to JDBC colon MySQL colon localhost / test. Definitely there will be a database called test on your machines. You can use the test database. Username value is equals to root. Password value, for me the password is again root. You can give your own password. And another things like initial size of the pool value is equal to set to max active. So these are the dependencies. I created the data source. How to inject this data source inside your DAO? There are various ways. I can use auto wired, but if this auto wired has to work, context colon component scan. So import that namespace, context namespace, then write context colon annotation point, right? Next one here, generally we need to configure this employee DO using JDBC as a bean inside my XML. I don't want this to be configured as a bean inside my XML. I want to use annotation. So what is the annotation? Tell me. Component. Yes. I used component annotation on the top of this JDBC class, employee DO using JDBC. But if this component annotation has to be recognized, you have to write context colon component scan base package is equals to, I'll say comp, I can specify com.sapient, means this package and all its sub packages, sub packages will be scanned for component annotation, right? That's it. Now I will write the service class also. Employee service, creating a package com.sapient. Yeah, repository. Oh yeah, instead of component annotation, you can annotate it with repository also. Both are same. Okay, here I'll write employee service. Here I will also write one method, public void insert, which will take employee object. But then this service has to do some business logic and finally invoke the DAO. Service is dependent on DAO, so I'll create a variable to tell about the dependency. Private employee DAO, employee DAO. Then I can auto wire it, or in this case I will use the resource annotation. Resource name is equals to, see, tell me what is the bean. I have annotated this with the component. What is the bean name? Yeah, same as the class name with first letter small. I'm just trying to show you various uses in this section. And this service class I can annotate it with service, right? Change it to, oh yeah, small. Okay. Now I need to write the UI. UI, don't write any UI, but just I'll create an employee object, dummy employee object, and try to save it. com.sapient dot UI. I'll create a class called employee UI. Employee UI is dependent on service. So here also I'll say public void save employee and here I'll create an employee object. Employee E is equals to new employee E dot set name some X, E dot set designation Then this UI is dependent on service, so I will use private employee service, and I will auto wire it. And here also I will make it as a component. That's it. Okay. Right now only one thing pending was in employee service I need to call JDBC employee using JDBC dot insert employee, and in JDBC I need to write the insertion code, right? Right now I'm not interested in writing JDBC code anyway. I'll just write system.out.println employee inserted. Otherwise you can write the JDBC code. Now anything to be added here? Nothing, because we already used component annotation and auto wire annotation, resource annotations. Nothing else here. So I'll create a demo class. I'll create somewhere I'll create a new class demo. I'll take main, and here I'll create an object of application context. And the name is beans.xml. Now I'll say context dot get bean what is the bean name if I want to get the employee UI? Same as class name with small letter. Typecast it. Then employee UI dot save employee. Here in save employee I forgot to write employee service dot here also. Now I'll run this example. Let us see what will happen. Yes, no exceptions. Employee inserted. Once we have the setup here, I'll try to modify the same example later while demonstrating the next features. Now what I want to do is, see here, I have hard coded the driver name, URL, username, password, everything here, right? Tomorrow, if I want to change this, I need to edit this XML file. Generally, in our application, the XML file will be having a lot of configuration. I don't want to modify the XML file. I want to externalize these values to some properties file, right? I want to give the values like driver name and all, everything inside a dot properties file. And I want this XML file to be read. I want these values to be read from the dot properties file. So now the next topic is how to externalize the bean configurations to the properties file. So now what I will do is I will write a properties file in src, new file db.properties I'll say. I wrote a dot properties file. Here I'll write driver class name is equals to similarly I will write URL username whatever URL is equals to the key can be different also. I'll say my URL just to distinguish. Similarly, I'll write username, password. Username is equals to root. Password is equals to root. So I configured here, right? Initial size equals to 2. Max active is equals to 10. So I configured everything here. Once I have configured everything here, inside the XML file I should write like this: dollar in curly brackets the key whatever you gave inside the properties file. Like that, whatever you want to replace. Whatever you are giving in bracket should be same as the key what you gave in the dot properties file, right? Right? Now you are using the placeholder. These are called as placeholders. Dollar whatever you are giving is nothing but placeholders. These placeholders have to be replaced with actual values which are read from the dot properties file, right? So for this what you need to do is you need to write a bean class is equals to property placeholder configurer, and you have to inject a property called location value is equals to db dot properties. So here you are telling which is the properties file where it has to look for this placeholder values. Right? That's all. Now if you run, it should work without any exceptions. This is the way to externalize the bean configurations to a properties file. Only if there is only one properties file, we use location, property name location. If there are more than one properties files, then you have to use locations is of type array. To inject array, you have to use list, right? If there's only one file, you have to use location. You have to inject location. If there's more than one property file, you have to use locations. Then there is a shortcut. You can use context colon property placeholder, and you can specify the location is equal to simply. Instead of writing that whole big thing, property placeholder configure, you can just simply use context colon property placeholder like this. This is the shortcut. Next, to internationalize an application. To internationalize means depending upon the locale of the user, it has to. Yeah. Okay. If you want to internationalize your application, depending upon the locale of the user, you want to display different text messages, right? So for internationalization, what you have to do is you have to create a bean called message source, which is nothing but resource bundle message source, and you have to specify, you have to inject base name. Base name I specify as messages. So you have to write a messages.properties inside your class path. Messages.properties is by default for English. Suppose if you want to write for Hindi, messages underscore hi.properties. For France, messages underscore fr underscore country code dot properties. You can write all the key value pairs if you have worked on internationalization, right? So to support internationalization, you have to use resource bundle message source. Once you do this, how to retrieve the values? See here, application context object dot get message. This is the key, and this is the locale, right? So depending upon the locale you give, you will get the value corresponding value for this key, right? Application context object is implementing an interface called message source. The application context is an interface, right? Application context is extending message source. So in the that is the reason why you have context dot get message. If you just give a key, you will get the value, right? But now in messages dot properties, alert dot checkout, this is a key and this is a value. So it will print this message, right? But you may be having a message like this: alert dot checkout, a shopping cart costing a placeholder 0 has been checked out at another placeholder 1, right? There are two placeholders, right? In that case, see, context should get message key and object array of placeholders. This will be replaced by 0. The second one will be replaced by 1 and the locale method, right? So by using like this, you can get the internationalized messages by using application context. And if it is a web application, we have a Spring tag, Spring specific JSP tag, Spring colon message, where it will be internally using some code similar to this. It will be getting the internationalized message. Any doubts? Here in this case, ID is also important for message source. It should be message source only. If it is something else, you will not get the output. Right? The idea of this being should be message source only. By using context object, you can say get message, but you in your own bean, if you want to get the internationalized messages, how to do it? See, this is my own bean. This is aware interface bean name aware. Similarly, message source aware. There will be a method called set message source. So if we have defined message source as a bean inside our XML, this message source will be automatically injected inside it, right? So in your bean, if you want a message source, you can make this bean to implement message source aware, and message source will be injected. And in your bean, see, message source dot get message. Previously you are saying context dot get message. Now you are saying message source dot get message. So this is how to retrieve internationalized messages in your own bean by making it implement message source aware. Right? Okay. Now coming to the editors. Suppose I have, as I told already, I have a person class which is having date. Earlier I told you in the morning. Here. I was having person class which has to be injected by date object. Inside XML, how did I inject it? I created an SDF. By using factory bean, I injected it, right? But right now what I want to do is, I want to inject string, only the string. I want this string to be converted to date, and date should be injected inside the person object. That's what I want right now, right? So see how I will do it. I don't want to write like this, I want to write something like this. Bean. Just see, I'll give you time to write it down. First understand. Bean class is equals to person ID is equals to set person, then property name is equals to DOB, value is equals to okay. I want to do it like this. This string should be converted to date object because DOB is of type date. Automatically it has to be done by Spring, right? For that we need to write our own editor. We need to tell how to convert the string to the corresponding date object, right? So what I can do is, in this case, I can write my own editor. I'll say, I'll create a new class, just see, my date editor. This editor has to extend a class called property editor support, java.beans.property editor support, and here we have to override set as text, get as text. Okay. Here in set as text, I'll be getting that string in some pattern, right? So to convert string to date, we need to use simple date format. SDF is equals to new simple date format, and I'll pass the format y hyphen hyphen dd. Then SDF dot parse arg0, whatever has been the parameter. Let's try some exception. catch it. Then parse is returning a data object. We need to call a method called set value. So whenever it has to convert string to a particular object, then this method is called. Whatever we pass for set value will be passed as a value to this one, right? But how it works internally? How does the Spring know that this has to be used? And while getting, generate getter sensitive. Okay, see here, and while getting, it has to say sdf dot format, is it? Format get value. You have to get the value. sdf.format will again give it as a text. Okay, now once we write our own property editor in your XML file, you have to specify a bean class is equals to custom editor configure. First of all, let me create my bean for my data editor. Is my data editor having any dependency? A simple date format, right? Simple date format is already created here. I can use injection auto wired. Okay, I declared it. Then coming to custom editor configurer, I need to inject a property name called as custom editors. Custom editors is of type what? Map, right? That custom editors is taking map. Custom editor map can be configured by using map entry key should be, 1 minute, I'll tell you. Java dot util dot date value ref is equals to okay. Now everything is done. See here, in my application, this is the configuration. If I say factory dot get bean person, it will try to create this person object using default constructor. Then it try to set date of birth, but the value is string, not matching. Date of birth is of type date, it's of type string, not matching, right? So whenever it has to convert string to some other object, if it is not matching, then it will look for a bean called custom editor configurer. It will take the help of custom editor configurer, and it has to convert string to what? Date. Inside this there is a custom editors, there is a map, right? Here I have specified for date object. What is the iter? My date. So this tells whenever it has to convert string to date object, it has to use my date, right? It will get the iter and it will call set as text, right? So once set as text is called, what are we doing? We are calling set value and passing the date object, right? So after the set as text is called, the date object will be set here in this object date. Then the factory, what it will do, it will call get as text. Whatever value we have set, it's dead, right? That same value we will be internally, what it will do, it will call get value. Sorry, we have called set value here and we are passing date object. If I say get value, it will give me date object. Whatever get value is returning, that value will be passed to the setter method of date object. So this is how it internally happens once you declare. This is a one-time configuration where you have to write your iter and configure your custom items. Here I will say read from person.xml. Context dot factory dot get bean. What is the bean name? Person then I'll just print system.out.println p dot get dov. Now it should print whatever date object for this date, right? Let us see. Well, not found. Person.xml. Where is person.xml? Oh, it should be inside class path. So now I'll run it. Null pointer exception. Oh, why I got null pointer exception, can you guess? Here as df is not injected. Why? Because if I am using auto void, I need to use context colon annotation config. I didn't use it. That's why SDF was not injected. I got the exception. Right? Here I auto void. It was not working because I didn't write context colon annotation config. Now I will run it. Again I got an exception. SDF simple date format, it's there.